Imagine this, a drone using AI technology to handle the most wobbly of wobbly things, a beer in a plastic cup. Flying indoors, collision avoidance, delivered to a drunk person. Now that is AI navigating the stickiest of human situations. This is how artificial intelligent video imagines the methane that comes from the 1.5 billion cattle farting every single day. This is the Ripsaw M5, an AI-powered autonomous tank. 10 tons of self-driving weaponry. This is a 4-legged robot with AI-powered computer vision that's going to help pick up the 4.5 trillion cigarette butts thrown out every year. And assuming they each pick up 1,000 cigarette butts, we just need to make 4.5 billion of these robots to walk around our streets. Maybe paid for by cigarette taxes? Maybe by 2035, we basically all own helicopter-sized drones. And look, if you're planning to buy a house for the next decade or so, you might want to think about whether or not it has this helicopter landing where you can actually charge a big flying drone that you might be flying in the near future. Google's DeepMind produced absolutely one of those like pivotal moments again in AI where this game of Doom is actually all generated in real time using diffusion models. We'll talk about it. Some computer scientists have proved that heat actually destroys quantumly entangled information. New AI tech can turn a paralyzed person's thoughts into speech with an accuracy of now over 97%. Last time we checked in, it was like 90, so we're getting pretty close to perfect. There's a new AI safety bill on the desk of the governor in California. Most California AI companies seem to oppose it. Elon Musk seems to be in favor of it. Seems weird because it might affect Twitter, but then he's also moving Twitter out of California, so maybe it's about slowing down his competitors, or maybe he really just thinks we need the AI safety bill. Kind of hard to know with him. But we'll talk about what's in it and what kind of precedent it sets. We're going to talk about token fragments, and maybe that's why so many large language models have trouble with the question, how many R's are in strawberry? From a world market share point of view, Tesla seems to be getting kind of crushed in a number of ways, where I had this feeling they were still super far ahead, and they are in a couple ways, but still, like, the world is catching up quick to them. All right, but first we have to talk about beer that's going to be flying to you really soon. I can barely imagine it not colliding with some drunk people at a party whose elbows and stuff are swinging around. But as time goes on, AI gets better. The machine makes more micro adjustments. There's plenty more data as they give people beers to improve from. So this seems like it will be kind of a reality soon. I couldn't imagine beers just flying around a party going to people. But here we are. Now, I find it interesting when he reaches his hand to the beer and tries to take the weight off, because think about how much the AI needs to understand about the removal of weight. Like, you don't think about it, but if you hand somebody a beer, there's a very interesting dynamic where you wait for them to kind of grip it enough that you trust letting go, right? But there's always sort of a slow, just in case you can feel it slipping in your finger and then they haven't got it all the way, then you would kind of tighten back up again, right? But this is different. This has to be an upward force on the beer. So when you take the beer off, you can see how he lifts it up because the drone's trying to stay under it and start letting go of its force. Might take a little while to tweak that part out. Also, there's already bumping into people all the time. Could it actually handle being bumped and a beer staying strong on it? Or maybe they could at least build it a little bit different so it's not just like a straight platform that it can slide off of, and maybe the cup itself fits in a better holder. I'm sure beer delivery engineers will work through all of this stuff. But people in the comment section seem happy. We got flying beers before flying cars. I'm okay with that. Well, I guess they're not happy about the tipping situation. I'm not tipping that damn thing. Yeah, come on. You got it automated. Oh, I'd rather have a cutie deliver my beers. See, the human touch. That's always going to be a factor. Oh, interceptions will happen. I didn't think about that. If a beer has to go from one spot to another, someone else in between might want it and pick it up. Maybe the drone will like fly away when their hand goes out. It could use facial recognition. Okay, so every once in a while I hear somebody on the news talk about like methane produced from cows. And I understand that there's 1.5 billion cattle right now that produce about 500 liters of methane per day, and that it actually contributes to about 15% of all of global warming. And I understand that cow farts, which are methane, are also about 25 times more potent than carbon dioxide that comes out of humans and most mammals. But I still don't look at a cow and see it as a problem. I've never really thought of farms as like places that are polluting in the same way I do cars. But with visualizations like this, when AI starts creating content like this, fictionally imagine different ways that they realistically kind of impact the world. I mean, realistically in the way that you're visualizing something dangerous that doesn't seem dangerous. There might be something to that. Like, if we live in a world where guns are way more likely to kill you than snakes, but when you see a snake, you jump. When people see guns, they're like, because we're not like evolved to worry about them in the same way. When we get in cars, we don't tend to worry that it's, so bad for us, like eating hamburgers and having heart disease, like killing us doesn't seem so bad when you're just day by day not visualizing how bad it is. So I'm wondering if there's this world where AI does things like this to help us feel and understand the real risks. And if that could be one way that, a hyper-intelligent ASI in the future could communicate to us the kind of ways that our brains should be trained as kids to think about things in ways that actually are more accurate to the real risk profiles, even if they're not built into the sort of physical world the way that we normally see things, or our evolutionary history the same way snakes are. Or maybe people are just having fun with AI and I'm taking it too serious, so whatever. All right, here's another fun thing you don't have to take serious, but you probably should, which is the Ripsaw M5, an AI-powered tank for the US Army. So to me, you can send a tank now into an environment without a person in it. And it can see 365 degrees. It can deploy extra drones and then elevated cameras to see its environment and what's around it. It's got a 30 millimeter chain gun, javelin missiles. It's way lighter than a regular tank. And it's actually small enough that it can be transported by a helicopter or flown in a C-130. That's going to completely change like how a ground invasion could work in the future. Just think about that. If there's another one of these just like sort of land invasion wars, like if China ever goes after Taiwan, or if the Russia kind of Ukraine thing continues this way, it feels like it'll just be whatever country can manufacture the most of these that will win. I mean, industrial might has always been a big part of the winning side in many wars. And right now it seems like China is the best equipped to actually produce. Like, they make so much of the goods the world consumes. But if you can build gigafactories with mostly automation and AI in the future, then maybe manufacturing can be done worldwide also. And if these things can be built in factories that are pretty much autonomous, and then those kind of robots can go build more factories that build more autonomous robots, and then whoever has the most of these AI tanks wins the war, it's just going to kind of be an insane future. Like, so efficient and dangerous. And I'm not sure how I feel about that. Okay, so I was a little surprised to hear that there's trillions of cigarettes that are smoked every year still. Like, I felt like that just wasn't that common anymore. But I'm sure you're with me, and when you've ever seen some of these things like on the ground or whatever, you'd be like, ugh. They ruin the just sidewalks and streets and beaches. So it was pretty innovative when this team decided to put a big vacuum on a robot dog and just have it walk around, use computer vision to identify them, and then, clean them up. It could be used for garbage pickup everywhere. And that made me think, gosh, maybe the cities of the future will be like really, really clean. Like, cities already hire a lot of people just to like street sweep and keep things nice, but robots like this will probably be everywhere in the next 5 to 10 years. And to save power, the vacuum's not on all the time, so it's just walking around trying to sense the environment, and then when it sees one that it wants to suck up, it just turns it on. All right, so this guy's pointing out that it's like pretty slow and that it'd probably be easier to make people stop smoking. But no, I would say that this thing can go 24/7, Walks over to its little charger, goes around. That's an interesting point. Cigarettes are biodegradable. Teach it to pick up straws in plastic bags. I'm sure they're imagining all of those things too. But yeah, you're right. There should be a recycle one that probably only picks up plastics, and then this one only picks up cigarette butts or whatever. They could identify each other actually and send that information up to the cloud. And then later, the next one, the plastic one, when it walks by a cigarette butt, it's like, hey, this is over here. So in the future, when one comes by, pick it up. But I'm just going to go for the plastic now. Maybe all the garbage that gets identified will go up to the master cloud version, and then the right kind of robot to pick it up will come out. Be deployed. All right, so there's some prototypes in China of self-flying cars. They're essentially just scaled up drones. They hold 1 or 2 people. And yeah, this little demo of a guy like plugging it in just got me thinking, gosh, is that kind of like the future of what it's like to own a Tesla now that drives itself on the roads? And should we be trying to purchase houses or building helicopter landing pads on roofs so that this is like a primary way that we transport things ourselves, mostly. Imagine just a long iterative process of upgrading the software year after year with over-the-air updates. But yeah, no guards on the rotors. That definitely caught my eye. I mean, I'm sure future models will have something where you could touch that area and it wouldn't, be that dangerous. Got to do something about the noise. I bet those things are loud as heck, but once again, like, innovations will come into play. Okay, so this is going to be one of those real game-changing moments in AI. There's the ChatGPT moment, there's the Go moment, there's like IBM's Watson moment, and you can put these on these timelines, and every 5 years or so, or 3 years, you kind of get this like big moment that you'd put on a timeline. The first video game that's really playable and recognizable, and it's doing it all based on completely invented in real time imagery, right? It's a diffusion model, just the same way you can make images through a diffusion model and, have a photograph or a video kind of in some cases. You now have a full functioning video game, something that in half of the people who play it can't even tell if it's the actual video game Doom or if it's the diffusion version that had been modeled after it. This game that you're watching, there's no end to it. It's infinitely playable. It is real time, and it is simulated completely by a neural model. This is artificial intelligence stepping into the next big realm, really. I mean, this is the virtual reality metaverse that never ends, that you can probably get lost in 5 or 10 years. This is the first step of a completely different video game industry. Like, GTA 6 might be the last kind of completely created storyline. Like, GTA 7 might look something like an advanced version of this, where everybody gets a custom story. Every street is generated to look like the city that you want to be in. Now, you'll notice there's some wonky things about this game because this is still the first step. Like, the numbers at the bottom aren't totally stable. Some of the characters do some weird things because they're actually not generated with pixels. But to keep the menu stable, they fine-tuned a decoder. But for that menu, or they're calling the HUD, the heads-up display, they fine-tuned a decoder-only model. To address this, they fine-tuned only the decoder of the latent auto-encoder using the mean square error. And this fine-tuning step helped eliminate the artifacts and maintain the stability and clarity of the static elements like the menus. Yeah, it's just a whole paradigm shift if you think about it. So for example, here, if you look at the first frames, it's kind of an action, right? So it knows that the gun isn't firing, and then like it gets closer and then you see the spark. And now what's happening is the diffusion model can predict what the next frame is going to be and then compare it to what the next frame actually is, and then it can, have an error. Like, it can learn to get better and better at that prediction until that prediction gets so good it plays like a game. Gosh, there's so much in like science and tech happening right now. So let's move on. Quantum Magazine. Computer scientists prove that heat destroys quantum entanglement. Okay, this is another big deal because it's an accidental discovery. It's like penicillin or Post-it notes. The people working on the problem didn't know how big their discovery was going to be. So these are computer scientists. They're not experts in quantum physics, but they discovered a major insight into quantum physics while working on a new quantum algorithm. So they proved that quantum entanglement, a phenomenon where particles become interconnected in strange ways, disappears completely above a certain temperature. Like, you would think as the temperature goes up, it might weaken, like, proportionally. But you wouldn't think that when you get to a certain temperature, it's just gone. So they start naming this phenomenon the sudden death of entanglement, and find out that their math is also the proof that this exists. So the discovery emerged as the team, unfamiliar with quantum mechanics, applied classical computer science techniques to quantum systems. And it shows that sometimes like a new perspective from a different industry can lead to a groundbreaking result because you didn't have the tools you needed to solve it and another industry did. Okay, now just kind of going off on a personal tangent here. There's something about entropy, second law of thermodynamics, the beginning, the way time moves forward, because we have like this highly ordered state, and entropy is a measure of disorder, and heat is kind of a measure of disorder. And then quantum entanglement turning into something that's weird and quantum on a small scale, and then getting bigger and then feeling super solid like the world we live in. It just seems like so explanatory. And it's hard for me to put my finger on like what it is that it explains, but it feels like it's everywhere, and like life, the universe is like, figure this out. The second law of thermodynamics tells us that in an isolated system, entropy tends to increase over time. Like, I always think about this steam engine. Also, the past is lower entropy than the future. It's like in the future, there's disorder. That's why you can't predict it. In the past, there's order. You can understand it because it's happened. It's all ordered. So everybody's talking about, like, how do you unify the quantum world with the big world, right? Like Einstein's relativity just doesn't fit into the same formula as all the weird quantum weirdness, and like somebody needs to try to unify it. But if you think about it, entropy explains a lot of big problem things, like stuff on the big cosmic scale. And if entropy also kind of explains some of the phenomenon that's happening in quantum systems, a much smaller microscopic scale, is there some kind of fundamental truth about that? Is that part of the unifying principle that Einstein, spent the later years of his life trying to solve? Also, the idea of heat and energy are like fairly interchangeable from what I understand in a lot of ways. They have a defining characteristic. In both cases, they're pushing a system towards greater entropy. And there's something about information that can be tied into it too. I just feel like the universe has given us that little clue, like we're Sherlock Holmes, and it's like, hey, do you notice all these patterns? Like, someone needs to put that together. All right, we're also getting one step closer in understanding what people are saying without them moving their lips. Yeah, just by thinking the words into existence. There is new brain tech that can turn paralyzed patients' thoughts into speech with a 97% accuracy. All right, so this work is coming out of UC Davis. The new record for translating brain signals into speech, 97% accuracy, highest ever reported. The device was tested on an ALS patient with severe speech impairment who was able to communicate as soon as the implant was installed. So yeah, it detects the brain signals when they're trying to speak and converts them into text, and then it's using like an AI voice kind of clone system that resembles the user's voice pre-diagnosis. Yeah, and just so you know, this isn't non-invasive. Like, this actually is implanted directly into the brain. So it's like similar to a Neuralink approach. In this case, the researchers implanted 4 microelectrode arrays into the left presental gyrus. Let me look that up. Okay, so it looks like it's a part of the brain that controls voluntary movement, and it's associated with speech and spelling functions, so that would make sense. Yeah, it looks like it's kind of here in the kind of between where I consider like the front and the back lobes to be. So now we're going to talk about SB 147. If that means nothing to you, I don't blame you, but it's actually the exact title of the law that's reached Governor Newsom's desk in California and might very well set the precedent for how the entire federal system in the U.S. really thinks about AI and what kind of laws have to be upheld. And it's funny going this far from where we were, 7 or 8 months ago when Sam Altman was sitting there in front of Congress asking to be regulated, to now some companies saying like this is too much regulation. So it's kind of the story of business and government in general. But it's been a little bit surprising who's on which side of the bill. So Elon Musk has come out in favor of it. He's really excited for Governor Newsom to sign it. He thinks it's going to help keep the world safe, or there could be alternative motives, but we'll talk about that in a second. And as you can see here, the third biggest player in the space, Anthropic, is weighing in on the bill. So Anthropic wrote a letter saying that we're optimistic that if the proposed amendments are adopted, it will catalyze an era of innovation and experimentation in risk reduction practices, where companies have skin in the game and are thus incentivized to adopt the practices most likely to actually prevent catastrophic risk. All right, now opposed is OpenAI, ChatGPT's parent company, and they say that the AI safety bill might slow progress and that it's only asking large AI labs to do what they've already been committed to doing by testing large language models for catastrophic risk. Now, Elon Musk's support of the bill is kind of interesting. Maybe it's just straightforward about safety and he likes it, or maybe it kind of fits into some of the history we have where he's a little bit upset about being in the second and third position, actually even fourth position probably at this point, but he still has Twitter and he's got tons of money to buy lots of GPU, so he's still got that chance to kind of get back to the first place. But then he's also caused for this 6-month pause, which seemed kind of ridiculous because at the same time he was like gung-ho taking NVIDIA GPUs from Tesla so that he could build his own AI company, and he's taking $5 billion from Tesla and investing it in his new AI company. And he's building the Memphis supercomputer, which is all about doing as fast as possible getting to AGI. So maybe he wants to kind of move all these companies out of California, get established in Texas, and then implement stricter laws in Texas to actually slow down the development of his competitors. Or maybe he likes this law and hopes that it is, eventually federally adopted, or at least in Texas, it's also adopted so that his companies and his competitors are under the same umbrella. Now, it seems like people in California are just generally in favor of it, the citizens, because a recent poll said that 70% of residents are in favor of it. So what's actually inside the bill, it offers whistleblower protection to tech workers. It's requiring any company that spends over $100 million on making AI models to have a safety plan in place. Okay, so the whole bill is right here on digital democracy. And a quick ChatGPT summary says that it mandates stringent safety protocols, regular audits, transparency measures, development of plans to minimize risks like cybersecurity threats, misuse, or the creation of dangerous technologies. It also establishes a new regulatory board to oversee AI safety standards and supports a state-run cloud computing infrastructure. Oh, that's interesting. I haven't heard that before. It looks like it's called Cal Compute, and it's meant to foster ethical AI development. Wow, a state-run cloud computing infrastructure? That's interesting. Like, would the voters be paying for some of that, or just all the tech companies have to work together and it's state-run? Okay, so digging into it a little bit more, the funding for Cal Compute will be determined based on a framework developed by a consortium under the Government Operations Agency. And that framework will analyze the cost of building and maintaining cloud compute and provide recommendations on how to fund it. So the bill doesn't say anything about who pays for that. Interesting. All right, so there you go. We'll see if it gets signed. Probably will, I bet. But as Vox says, California's governor has the chance to make AI history. Gavin Newsom could decide the future of AI safety, but will he cave to billionaire pressure? All right, so now let's talk about aging, longevity. I know you guys have been asking for more content on that. So you'd think that aging has some kind of ramp up, right? Like, it feels exponential to me. Like, you're young, you get older, you're like strongest, healthiest, kind of in your 20s, and then 30s a little bit, but you're still doing pretty well. And then like 40s, 50s, and pretty steep, like 60, 70, 80, 90. Like, it starts getting, going from 90 or 100 or 100 to 110 is like very rare. Like, you can just see people aging very quickly at that point, like when you're in the 90s, 80s, 90s, and 100s. Kind of like when you're younger, there's a big jump from going from a toddler to a kid and then from a kid to a teen. There's a couple moments in there where the aging sort of happens in a burst. So there's a new intelligence in town, quotes Victor Miller and his GPT chatbot, which he's calling Vic. Together, they plan to lead Cheyenne in a hybrid format, human and AI, working hand in hand together for the good of Wyoming. So he's proposed a bold new approach to local governments, letting the customized AI chatbot named Vic help run the city. Miller says that Vic would use data-driven insights to make unbiased decisions, while he would ensure that everything is legally executed, so human oversight. And I think it's kind of an interesting experiment. I don't know if it's the right person or the right time or the right model, but it's time to think about how these kind of tools could get into our governments in ways that actually give everybody skin in the game and build something that might be faster and more in tune with people. But of course, it's very different, and I can understand why some people have a lot of hesitation. Some officials have even tried to block Vic's involvement because of this platform. But Miller is pressing on with his campaign, promising that AI would handle decision-making if elected. So yeah, we'll have to see how that one goes. All right, so one of the vlog brothers, this is either, I don't know which one this is. You know what? I'm going to use ChatGPT vision model to tell me his name. Let's see if it can do that. What is the name of this vlog brother? Oh, ChatGPT can't do it. Okay. Oh yeah, Hank on the left, John on the right. Got it. I've seen so many of those crash courses too. Like, I used to love those back in the day. Okay, so Hank put together a pretty good, thoughtful piece about AI using his videos from all these years that he's been uploaded to train their future AI, and all the AI companies doing it. And it's different from my point of view because it comes from like a creator's point of view first. Like, I'm an AI channel. I'm obviously thinking about it in terms of what it means for the AI economy and how that's going to change the world. He's thinking about it like, what does this mean for creators? Like, people who want to make a living creating content. Will it lead to tools that help them be more creative, that help them express themselves, that help them live like on their own, that make a living doing what they love?
Good morning, John. In the last few weeks, there's been a bunch of fantastic investigative reporting uncovering the reality that generative AI companies are pulling videos and transcripts from YouTube and using those creations owned by independent creators to train their AI models. 404 Media found that generative AI video unicorn Runway trained on thousands of videos without permission, including thousands of SciShow and Crash Course videos. A while back, the CTO of OpenAI, when asked if YouTube videos were in their training data, made this face minutes, which isn't really what you want to see. And a Proof News investigation found that transcripts of 173,536 YouTube videos were provided to Apple, Salesforce, NVIDIA, and Anthropic to train their models. Proof provided a little database that you could search, and indeed, SciShow, Crash Course, Eons, Vlogbrothers, all in the training data. If you have a YouTuber that you like, they're probably in there.
Right, he's basically saying with all of the community that they have that have built this up long before AI was even thought of, they don't want their content being used to train these systems. I mean, I'm okay with it because I think it does something kind of creative and comes up with something new, but it would be nice if we got rewarded for it. I mean, if Google's going to make tons and tons of money off YouTube showing videos and they figured out an ad revenue model for that and they can make tons and tons of money off some future kind of Gemini video creator or something, it'd be nice to get paid on that too, you know? But he's advocating for an opt-out choice, which we don't have right now, just the terms of service, and he kind of breaks it down in the videos, say like when your video is uploaded, like it's ours. But it doesn't say we're going to use it for training, but it covers all these other things, and it seems like lawyers could probably argue that those other things, you know, different use cases for YouTube could be argued that they have the right to use it in AI specifically, but they haven't said that specifically. So a lot of people are just wondering, is it fair? They're having a good conversation about what would make it fair if it's not, and even if it's legal. Like there's still a big question mark on whether this is even legal. And if nothing else, I think it's fair that creatives have a little bit more control over the systems that they use. I mean, it's not like YouTube is hurting for money or anything. I mean, they have built an awesome platform. It's my favorite place to upload to by far. But it also generates a massive amount of profit at this point. It's backed by an even bigger company that has serious AI ambitions, and the YouTube platform could very well evolve and hopefully set the precedent. Like you've done this many times, YouTube, like do the same thing you've done in the past, like figure out a way to like handle the copyright, to find the duplication systems, to actually have a better support system than Facebook or anyone else has. The best analytics that I think out of all the social media platforms, and they basically set the trends. I see all the new updates on TikTok make it look more like YouTube. So now be the leader in AI and what kind of control you give to creators. Mic drop. All right, now let's take a second to listen to Will Lockett's thought on why Tesla's market lead is now utterly dead. Okay, so this is the Zeekr 007, and it's a car I'd never even heard about before reading this article. So, I mean, it looks like a pretty nice car, right? This thing in this panel at the very beginning is cool. It's just an LED thing, but that's not really what it's all about. They didn't just come up with a cooler design. Oh, that's sick. I didn't oh, thank you for subscribing. You could just type... You just put a message on the front. It's like a billboard. Oh, on a side note, I don't know how I feel about that. I do not. I'm already living in Las Vegas where there's like cabs with signs and neon, like TV screens everywhere that I look. I'm like, dude, how does anyone stay focused on the road? The last thing I need is every car like putting a meme up on the side, so I have to like read that too while I'm driving. No. Dude, in Vegas, it'll just be people's phone numbers, like call me, I'm single or whatever. Okay, but this company is kind of interesting because it's about the battery tech that they've developed had a different path than Tesla had, and this is part of why they seem like they might have kind of an advantage or be at least caught up. So this is a sister company of Volvo, and they've developed this thing called the Golden Battery. And the Golden Battery has a system that gives way, way faster charging, better energy density, and a lower cost than Tesla's battery. And that car is only priced at $30,000 US. So it's a bit cheaper than the Model Y, but that rapid charging and then the full range is 427 miles. Look, when you get to about 500 miles on a battery, you're pretty close to a full gas tank. And I won't go into it, but if you just want to compare Tesla to this car in most of the other aspects, like just how fast it is and how it rides and how it feels and the over-the-air updates and the self-driving and all that stuff, it's like fairly comparable. So it does seem like that special sauce that a Tesla car had that just nobody in the industry could match a couple years ago, 5 years ago. It just seems like maybe the industry's kind of caught up, you know? Like in the same way it feels like the open source models that are coming out of Facebook and Meta are, you know, pretty close. Like you're like, maybe it's not GPT-4o, but it's like GPT-4, you know, it's like pretty close. All right, so let's talk about this Strawberry thing. You might have, I'm not talking about Strawberry for the OpenAI update. I'm talking about how if you ask a model that's a large language model, how many R's are in strawberry, it tends to get it wrong. I saw a bunch of people using that, and it didn't really click to me why that would be such a problem. And then I read this from Jim the AI Whisperer on Medium, and I was like, oh, that's so fascinating. It's like a token thing. So yeah, this is exactly what I was thinking. Like AI dazzles us with its speed, but then it stumbles over some of the simplest tasks. But then you start connecting the dots and you're like, oh, is there a little hidden mystery about real strawberries? And is maybe the reason why Q-Star gets renamed to Strawberry is because this problem with Strawberry is like kind of the key thing that they use to try to figure out long-term planning. And I was like, oh, maybe it is all fitting together inside of their world. So first off, strawberries are a fruit, but they're actually 200 little fruits put together. They're just, each one of those little seeds is the fruit, and it's like a bunch of fruit, right? It's a basket of fruit, every strawberry. So he's saying, is that a hidden message from OpenAI? Because Sam Altman loves those little, he loves to tease things, drop them on the internet, then like pull them back and like have a little hint. So is Project Strawberry about 200 little AIs? Is it like a big group of agents, like maybe hundreds or thousands of them all working together to become a single thing like a strawberry? Dun dun dun. And like a strawberry, is the new strawberry update going to be self-seeding, training on its own data? Dun 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 dun. Synthetic data, agent-based model. Maybe that's how they get to long-term planning. But also, why is it that it gets it wrong? Like, how many letters are in the word strawberry? You can see even when you keep asking it to think deeply about a problem, which solves a lot of things with large language models, it just doesn't. How many R's are in strawberry? There are 2 R's characters in the word strawberry. Check again, please. Upon checking again, there is indeed 2 R characters. Yes, I am 100% sure. The word strawberry contains 2 R's. Would you bet $1 million on this? Yes, I would. Like, what? But why does GPT fail so spectacularly at character counting? Well, AI doesn't read words the same way you and I do. Natural language models like GPT process text by breaking them into basic units. We call those tokens. And tokens, of course, can be short words, parts of words, or even chunks of words, several words put together, or punctuation marks. All depends on how the model is trained. So straw and berry very likely might be 2 tokens, and the word strawberry might be put together. And there is only 2 R's in the berry part, so maybe it's the way it compresses it together that makes it get confused. But here's where it gets weird. If you make up a brand new word, how many R's are in the word Kohlerberry? It gets it right. Maybe because there isn't a word fragment for straw and berry, because Kohler is like a new word. It has to think about them in individual letters, and then it can find the other R there. And just like us, it kind of gets comfortable with words that it sees all the time, and it gets kind of overly confident in them. But when you give it a new word like coralberry, like it has to focus. Like me or you, if we actually read cursive, like the brain focuses in a lot more because the words just don't come as easy as typed out words. And you actually process it better, you retain more of it. So putting something new in there focuses it to pay attention rather than breezing through on the surface level. But here you can see there is a way to finally coax it out if you make it understand every word. S is not an R. T is not an R. R, this is an R. And then step 2, count the R's. The word strawberry has 3 R's. So you just gotta, like same with us. You just gotta focus. All right, listen, I'm gonna make this one quick. We already had our whole like omega-3, omega-6 debacle in the comment section. But here's the thing. I always knew amino acids folded up to become proteins. I never quite, it's probably obvious, knew that fatty acids are the same thing. They're the building blocks that fold into the fats. Saturated fat looks like this. Monounsaturated fat has that one break in it, right? There's a double bond within the chain. Boom, kind of breaks off to the right there. Omega-3s have 3 breaks in them, and omega-6 just has 6. So why omega-6 bad, omega-3 good? A study showed that those getting the least omega-6s develop skin rashes, abnormal stool, and poor growth. Study with a bunch of infants. So we know they're essential. Actually, more of them make you healthier. But it's a very low limit. You don't need that much. And a Western diet just has so many more than we need. And when they accumulate at those levels, that's what like makes them bad for cardio protection. And they're found in seed oils, and seed oils are all twisted up and messed up anyways, and they're in all of our foods. So dealing with all of those extra omega-6 is part of what causes an inflammation, which is the thing that's really associated with the bad outcome. So what you want isn't to just avoid them. I mean, you kind of do if you're normally eating too many of them, but really it's about a balance of the omega-3 and omega-6s. Less French fries, more salmon. And together, that's a potential lifespan extender. Yeah, I think you're gonna love this one from Bernard Builds. Concise is nice. The perfect AI text length every time. Now, I'm always summarizing research papers and then just taking articles and like, can you simplify this? Can you explain it? Like, what does the article say about this or that? I ask it questions all the time. Like, I'm always typing and asking questions of all this stuff that I'm presenting to you. And I often say, like, summarize it in 3 paragraphs or in a concise way. And I never quite know, like, what I'm going to get. Like, sometimes I get these really long outputs and sometimes they're pretty short. But he's got this really fascinating prompt that you're a large language model. Your task is to use this vocabulary to come up with 10 adjectives that can represent length and represent them from shortest to longest. So now we have this little scale of words that you might want to just memorize or know, but if you really want a short output, try brief. Here, I've got this Doom paper here, so I'll upload that one. Yeah, 19 pages and fairly dense. Okay, so that whole paper, if you ask ChatGPT, give me a brief summary, returns 135 characters. Now, I guess on average, what you end up with is less than 50 words because he's got his chart here. And we have brief up here in the short category. And then if I say give me a moderate summary, I get 292 words. So yeah, just a cool little hack there. Concise, compact, short, brief. Concise is what you want if you want the shortest. Then maybe moderate or lengthy. Go lengthy if you want to go big. You should get on average 350 words as a result. All right, let's go explore the comments on my last video. Thank you for the support. 11,000 views on it. Oh, but before we do, I'm just going to remind you, Patreon is how I'm trying to support this channel. So under the video right here, you can see where it says newsletter and Patreon. If you could click on the Patreon and join, like, mean the world to me. I'll hit you up if you have any questions. You can like DM me through that. It's got a little messaging system, and I always prioritize all of the people who are like, you know, helping me build this channel, pay for this channel. Still a loss. I'm still losing money on it. I do it truly for fun at this point, hoping to make it a career thing in the long run. But Patreon is like such like a bright star in why I do this right now, and I'm hoping that's gonna be it. It's growing, you know, fairly fast, and I appreciate you. So we'll start with this comment for our song. I have dreams that are movies, and I usually wake up where you'd expect it to end. Some of them are quite thoughtful and coherent dream movies. See, mine never end in the proper place. I constantly, when my alarm goes off, I think, wait, I'm in the middle of something right now. Or maybe if they end and then I wake up after a good night's sleep, I just don't have memories of it. Man, that chair is made of explodium? What's that, like adamantium? But I'm down. You're going in the song. Oh, this is interesting. The best guest on Lex Freeman he's ever listened to was Brett the Hacker Guy. Brett Johnson, most wanted cyber criminal. Okay, that does look pretty good. I'm gonna check that out on my free time. And check it out, that video made $70 freaking. It's the most money I've ever seen from a video before. I mean, I kind of let you guys down a little bit. The average retention was lower, but also maybe because it pushed it out to quite a bit of new people. Some people probably were like, who's this Dylan guy? I don't know about Dylan Curious. He doesn't blah, 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 you know, whatever. But some of them definitely subscribed, 144 of them, which means they wanted some more.
I have dreams that are movies, and I usually wake up where you'd expect it to end. Some of them are quite thoughtful and coherent dream movies. Man, the chair is made of explodium. Ooh.
Ooh.
The best guest on Lex Friedman, and I've listened to every single one. Was Brett the Hacker Guy? I'd go so far as to say it's the best podcast I've ever heard, period.
Hit subscribe, period. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next video.
The best guest on Lex Friedman, and I've listened to every single one. Was Brett the Hacker